Greetings, and welcome to the first follow-up holocron to the 2021 Beginner's Guide. This is Darth Loquitur's Path of the Gladiator. This is intended for people who enjoy the player versus player aspects of the game, such as Grand Arena, Territory Wars, and Squad Arena, and we're going to try to build quickly into a Squad Arena that can help free-to-play players be very competitive. In terms of PvP content, this is 10 out of 10. This is the best path to play in player versus player early game. Events, Conquest, Galactic Challenge, we still get a 7 out of 10. It's got very good teams to participate in those activities. And in raids and guilds, it is a little bit lower, perhaps 6 out of 10. In terms of mod requirements, this is the most challenging follow-up path. Mods make a big difference in how you do in player versus player. So on top of the challenging build that we're going to do for the account, we also have to put in good mods to make these teams work. Fleet requirements are also very challenging, and there is, from the start of this path, the need to do well in fleet. So the outline, we're going to do 4 phases. And just to give you an outlook, this could last about a year and a half if you're free to play and you don't buy the hyperdrive bundle. The total build path is a year and a half. First, we're going to unlock Jedi Knight Revan. Then we're going to go into a transitional phase where we're going to work on bounty hunters and ships. Then we're going to work on the unlocks for Darth Revan and Darth Malak and finish those Revan teams out. And then we're going to go into the SLKR build. And the reason why we're pulling SLKR into the build in this way is so that I can lay out a path for you all for PvP that's going to get you 2 good Revan teams with a break in the middle to make sure that you're going to be able to qualify and get that SLKR, all of the fleet requirements and all the character requirements in the right time. Starting advice, if you love PvP, start as soon as you can, as soon as you start the game. This build is driven by crystals to do refreshes. You're going to get those from fleet arena placement. So it's important to get ahead and stay ahead in fleet, even more so than it is to rush characters. So if you're looking at building character teams to do well in squad arena, and you're not placing in at least the top 10 in fleet, then you really need to redirect your resources into your fleet, into your pilots, and make sure that you're getting an excellent score in fleet, because we're going to drive a whole lot of refreshes out of that income. And if you don't have that, you will not be very successful with this build, especially if you're free to play. Place in top 10 in fleet, period. If you're not doing that, then all your resources have to go into Tarkin, Geos, Vulture Droid. What you need to use over there in fleet, it needs to be good. It needs to be top of the fleet arena. In terms of the generic refreshes, when you're early game and you're building from the basics into the Gladiator build, we are going to be double farming the Vulture Droid, and we're going to do 2 refreshes of regular energy to maintain that farming level. We also want to try to get 1 Cantina refresh in as often as we can, and we want at least 2 mod refreshes. Again, remember, we're going to be pushing player versus player here, and we've got to have good mods, and you have to start very early spending some of your resources on these mods to make sure that you get a lot of good mods in your account, a lot of speed mods with speed substats, and other decent mods to go with them. You'll hear a lot about mods throughout this, and you need to do it. Whether you like mods or not, it's a critical part of this build. So Gladiator starting advice, we really want to get you into a solid guild as soon as we can. By the time you're close to 85, you should be able to join a guild that's doing dark side GOTB and light side Hoth at least. Guild Event 2 tokens are important to maintain fleet dominance, and you want to get that Malevolence capital ship as soon as you can. You should be able to get a 5-star Malevolence between 6 and 9 months in, depending on the quality of a guild that you get in. Spend time getting a good guild. If you're building the Geos, you build the Geo fleet, you build the Geos as a team, promise that you're going to get 600 tickets a day, and guilds at a pretty high level will consider you. They're really looking for 600 tickets a day, participation, a Wat Tem Borshard, I don't know, in the future it might not be so popular, but right now they're ramping up into that Galactic Legend Kenobi, and it has a requirement for a relic level Wat Tambor. So all the guilds now are really big on pushing the Wat Tambor shards. You'll have that with your Geos. These things can get you a good guild. A good guild is going to help you with this build. First thing we're going to work toward is Jedi Knight Revan. You can see the characters and ships that we're going to be working on up top. We're going to continue to focus on that Vulture droid. That's important for fleet. We're going to have Zalbar. He comes off of a light side node as well as a fleet node. You can start farming him as early as level 43 and level 72 out of fleet. Bastila Shan is unlocked at 49 in 5B in the dark side, and in 2D and fleet at level 65. Jolee Bindo, 6D dark side at 59. And even though the fleet opens up, I really put 85 plus in here because that node is not particularly easy, and you may be level 85 before you can get that fleet node opened up. So don't expect to get to that fleet node soon. If you do, congratulations on having a great fleet, but we have to farm Bindo as if we're not expecting to be able to double up his shards by taking them from fleet. We're also going to work on the Hyena Bomber. We're going to add that into the build. And then we've got T3, M4, and Mission that come out of the Cantina at level 61 and 77 respectively. So you could be looking at this build as early as level 43 and making moves that make sense to move into this Gladiator path. In JKR farming, if you look at the hard nodes, you're going to have the Vulture Droid times 2, Bastila, Jolee, Zalbar. That's 5 hard farms a day. It doesn't leave you a whole lot of energy left over for gear, and it does require at least 2 regular energy refreshes to get all of those things every day. Fleet hard nodes, we're going to count on Bastila, Zalbar, and we're going to start farming Carth Onasi out of here quite early because we do need him, and we can expect to work on him a little bit out of fleet. In the Cantina, we'll do Mission and T3, M4 in any order. It's fine, either one of them. Not necessarily that you have to bring either one of them to 7 stars first. They're not pilots, and you're just building them for the requirements for Jedi Knight Revan. In mods, you want to do health, crit chance, and speed. This build is going to require, at this phase, at least 2 regular energy, 1 fleet, 1 Cantina refresh per day. And, in theory, we'll want to get in 1 or 2 mod refreshes as well. So we want to be at least in the fleet top 10. And squad arena placement is not as critical. If we get into top 10, that's 200 or more crystals per day, and that's going to help drive these refreshes that we need to make sure that we're getting this account up and running. If you can get in fleet top 10, that's good. If you can get in fleet top 5, that's better. If you can place first or second, of course, that's where we would really prefer to be. Sometimes you'll be in a fleet shard with somebody who spends a lot of money right away. And that's if that's the case, then people will run up past you. It's also possible early that hyperdrive bundle players will pass you up in fleet. Don't worry about that too much. You will fly past most of the hyperdrive bundle players with a good Geo fleet under the Tarkin lead. So let's say around level 70 to 75, if you notice that a bunch of hyperdrive players are passing you up, don't worry about it. You'll be able to exert your fleet dominance again quite soon. Start each character as early as you can. Take Bastila and Zalbar from both regular energy and also from fleet every day. For gearing up, keep your focus on the Geos. We're working on the stars for these characters, but it's more important to put your gear onto the Geos and establish that fleet placement. With 2 or more Cantina characters, you do want to look for the Cantina refreshes when possible. And Jolee, if you're anxious to get that JKR, the stopping point will be Jolee Bindo, and you can forced farm him if you want. If you, let's say, for example, if you want that as soon as you hit level 85 and you're a little bit behind, you can force farm Jolee Bindo as the last requirement. In the prereq phase, it's important to manage the fleet store. We're already going to be looking way ahead at the First Order Finalizer Capital Ship event. So what you need to do in the fleet store, you need to always have currency in the bank so that you can buy Grievous when he shows up. He's the captain of the Malevolence, and we want to get him to 7 stars and gear him up quite well. You also want to look for Darth Vader and the TIE Advanced out of the store whenever they show up to get them maxed out to 7 stars and get the ship at 7 stars. And then you will have to spend some of this currency on Geos. You'll want to start grabbing Slave 1 when it comes into the store, and the First Order TIE as the last priority, only if you have a bunch of currency and nothing else to buy. Basically, the Slave 1 and the First Order TIE you'll buy once your Geo fleet is finished to 7 stars and you're done with those characters and ships. But you do need to buy these ships out of fleet as soon as you can. Don't worry too much about buying Zeta pieces out of the fleet store with your currency. Really focus on buying these characters and getting these ships up and running. Now, in the Jedi Knight Revan, we're going to talk about the hard farm transitions. So if you're double farming the Vulture Droid, out of all the things that you're farming, that will finish up first. And when it finishes up, that will give you 2 opportunities to do more hard farms. Again, if we're double farming the Vulture Droid, then instead we're going to pick up Juhani and Bastila Shan Fallen already. And this will most likely be before you even get Jedi Knight Revan unlocked. But go ahead and start working on those characters. When Bastila finishes, we're going to start the light side 8D node with the Hound's Tooth, and we're going to work on the TIE Advanced in the fleet. So Bastila, remember, we're taking her off of a fleet node as well as a regular energy node. So with the regular energy, you're going to start doing Hound's Tooth. And with the fleet energy, you're going to start working on the TIE Advanced. That's Vader's ship out of Fleet 4B. You should have it unlocked by the time you have Bastila finished. This is probably around level 80, level 75 to 80, something like that for a free-to-play account. So you should be able to pick up that TIE Advanced node. When Zalbar finishes, remember he's also a regular energy and a fleet. With the regular energy, we're going to pick up the Xanadu Blood node and start working on that ship. And then we're going to start working on Slave 1 out of Fleet 2B. When Bindo finally finishes, we're going to start working on Kylo Ren's shuttle. And we're farming that Hyena Bomber up to 5 stars to get started. We want the ship, but we do need to get the Hound's Tooth up and running as a key part of that finalizer event. So as soon as the Hyena Bomber gets to 5 stars, we're going to divert resources and start farming Bosk to pilot that Hound's Tooth. Mission and Zalbar can work at level 60, gear 7 for the Jedi Knight Revan event. Don't overgear them. I think I took my T3 M4. He was level 65, gear 8 with level 1 skills. I didn't put any effort into him, and he did just fine. Bindo ends up going to relic levels, and the Zeta goes on that looks pretty bad. So you can commit gear or Zetas to Bindo, no problem. You're going to continue to build him, so any gear level you take him to is fine. With Bastila, we're going to build her up to gear 11 or gear 12 for this team. So again, you don't need to stop off with her, but with the other 3, build them up a little bit and you can park them. You will need to put some more effort in them by the time you go to the Malak event, but for right now, it's not necessary. If you start as soon as you can with this build, you can have JKR ready to go and have him unlocked at level 85 or potentially just after you hit 85. And Jedi Knight Revan will unlock at 7 stars. Then we're going to do what we're going to call the interlude for Jedi Knight Revan. So when we finish up these characters, most people would probably advise you to go right into the Darth Malak side of the build. We're not going to do that. So as we finish up the characters and unlock this JKR, we're going to be working on a whole bunch of farms for the First Order fleet. We're going to have that Xanadu Blood and all those ships that we're farming, okay? During this period, and until you get transitioned into Juhani and Bastila Shan Fallen, we're going to work on Jedi Knight Revan and his gear for this team and his relics. So during this period, you'll also relic Vader, and you'll have to work on General Grievous because, again, you do want to get him started and get him prepared for the Malevolence unlock at some point. So you're going to spend 8 to 10 weeks, potentially even more, in between Jedi Knight Revan and Darth Revan, farming ships and farming relics for these characters. That's going to help you get ahead in Squad Arena. You're going to be able to have a smooth transition into the finalizer. That's the big thing. If you build Jedi Knight Revan and then Darth Revan and unlock Malak, and then you start to go for SLKR, what you'll find is it really takes a long time to get that finalizer event unlocked and up and running, and a lot of people get frustrated. We've seen that before. So we're going to start down that finalizer path in the middle here while we're getting a few relics into our account. That is going to build up a squad arena, and we're going to look to get into the top 100. Now remember, we're going to push up with this team pretty early, right after we hit 85. A couple months after that, we're going to have relic level characters in the account, and we're going to take this squad to a higher placement in arena. We're not trying to get top placement, and if we can break into the top 50, that's great. But you can expect then, as you go into the Darth Revan phase and start to divert your resources out of this team, you may start to slide back down on Squad Arena. That's okay. We're not fighting for Squad Arena, but this is going to get us good placement. It's going to improve our crystal income and stabilize those refreshes that we needed. The whole time that we're doing this, remember, you want to save all of your guild event token 1 currency. Do not spend it. We're going to have to use that to build Malak. So farm that, get in, like I said, get in a good guild, have that income coming in, and don't spend it on anything, regardless of how tempting it is. It's also going to help us align the Malak timing with the 7-star timing. So if we're saving get 1 currency, we should have quite a bit of it in the bank by the time we get Malak unlocked, and we should be able to take him probably up to 6 stars pretty quickly, and then the route to finishing him out to 7 stars won't be far behind. So what I'm saying is it won't hurt you much to take this little interlude because you wouldn't get Malak to relic level anyway. And Malak is a critical part of that Darth Revan team. So the Jedi Knight Revan team, what does done look like? You want to get Jedi Knight Revan to relic 5. Some people later in the game say you don't need to have JKR at that high of a relic. JKR has a different purpose in the highest level Jedi teams. He's more of a support character with his marks and things like that. But early game, he does fantastic damage, and there's no reason not to make him a Relic 5 damage monstrosity on your team. So that's what we're going to do. You're going to want a Zeta on General, Savior, and Focus can be Zetaed at some point, but you can wait on that. Bindo needs to be at least Relic 3, potentially Relic 5 if you can commit those resources. And you want Zeta on that, looks pretty bad. And those 2 characters at Relic level are going to carry the team. Grandmaster Yoda, you need him to be at least Gear 12. If you want to commit to a Relic on him as well, it would be fantastic for this team and help your squad placement a lot. And Zeta on the Battle Meditation is well advised. Bastila, you can stop her at Gear 11 or Gear 12. Anakin or Ahsoka can also be filled in at modest gear level. You do want, in the early team, you want Raid Kenobi in here. And it'll probably be about 9 months to get Kenobi to 7 stars and max him out and relic him. So you may want to build that Anakin or the Ahsoka in the meantime to have a good functional Jedi on the team. Or maybe if you built Phoenix, you just take your Ezra Bridger and put him at gear 10 or 11 at least, and put him in the team. That's fine too. So you'll have one Jedi here that's kind of a fill spot until you can get your Kenobi going. So JKR will be done, and you'll get these relics, and that should put you around 1 million galactic power in total, along with the Geos and the fleet and the stuff that we've built out of the beginner's guide. Also in this interlude, we're talking about relicking Vader. Again, if you're into player versus player and you want to do well in Grand Arena, this relic level Vader is going to do a lot of work against Geos and other teams. It'll definitely do what's needed against other Phoenix teams that other people have built and might be using on a defense. You can carve them apart pretty easily with a Vader. You will want Merciless Massacre for sure on Vader, and No Escape is surprisingly beneficial, especially against teams like Geos, to be able to pull that spy out of stealth and make him part of the Merciless Massacre. Both are required to counter the Geos effectively. You have the Empire team already in the beginner's guide. We talked about Palpatine, Thrawn, Moff Gideon, and Moff Tarkin. So there are other support characters, and that makes Vader a great character because you can put in as many of the other support characters as you need, and he can go from a single character to a 5-man team, depending on what you need to use in the Grand Arena. It's also needed for his ship. So when we talk about the Finalizer event, we do need Darth Vader's ship up and running, and having a relic level Darth Vader is going to make his ship that much more powerful. Now we're transitioning into the Darth Revan, Carth Onasi. We've already been working on him a bit out of fleet, even as far back as working on Jedi Knight Revan at the start. The Juhani and Bastila Fallen we've transitioned into after we finished our Vulture droid. Then we pick up HK-47 out of the Squad Arena Store, Canderous, TIE Silencer, Kylo Ren Masked, and Sith Empire Trooper all come out of the Cantina. Now those are not all required for the Darth Revan unlock, but I'm going to include all of those characters in this phase of the build because we do want all of those characters to be developed. The Sith Empire Trooper is going to be a part of your Darth Revan team in 5v5, so you will need to spend some time to build him. And since we're going for SLKR as the end of this build, we want to pull in Kylo Ren Unmasked and Kylo Ren Masked as soon as we can, because of their high potential to hold things up in Grand Arena, or in Kylo Ren Masked case to be able to solo a lot of the early game teams. So we're going to build them already in the Darth Revan phase. And this is, again, it's going to require a lot of refreshes to keep up with this pace. This is a really, steady but strong pace for your account to be running. In hard nodes, we're looking at Xanadu Blood, the TIE shuttle, or the First Order shuttle, the Houndstooth, Juhani, Bastila Fallen. Again, that's 5 hard nodes we're farming every day, so at least 2 refreshes. In fleet, we've got Carth, Slave 1, TIE Advance that we're farming. Out of the Cantina, we want Canderous first, of course, to make sure that we're going to lock down the requirements for the Darth Revan event. Then we're going to build Kylo Ren with a mask first, the old school Kylo Ren, and start getting him leveled up to be able to help us in the Grand Arena. Then we're going to use Kylo Ren Unmasked and the 7. We're going to farm that node on Cantina for Kylo Ren Unmasked until we get the Silencer all the way to 7 stars. And then we're going to start farming that Sith Empire Trooper tank. In mods, we're still working on the same thing: speed, crit chance, and health. Now at this point, you need at least 2 regular refreshes a day, 1 fleet refresh a day, 2 Cantina refreshes every day. And those 2 Cantina refreshes are going to take some doing. That's 200 crystals all just in 2 Cantina refreshes. But we need that to stay on pace. Fleet top 5 is important here. By this point, we really are looking to be in top 5 in fleet every day. That's 300 or more crystals, and that's how we're going to get all of these refreshes as a free-to-play player. If you can't get top 5 in fleet, again, then pour the resources back into that, work on your Hyena Bomber, work on whatever it is that you need in your particular fleet shard to put you over the top and get you into that placement. That stays the top priority for this account to generate your income. The hard farm transitions. So when Carth finishes up in the fleet nodes, hopefully by then we will have unlocked the Enfys Nest node. Normal 5E for fleets is really a sticking point for a lot of people. You'll spend some time there. But once you get past that node, you should be able to get to Enfys Nest and be able to farm that node. So that's where we're going to transition into. When Juhani finishes, we're going to pick up Hux. When Bastila Fallen finishes, we're going to pick up the Sith Trooper, the red Sith Trooper. And then as the Xanadu Blood, Houndstooth, and Shuttle finish up, we're going to start on Dark Side 2A and Light Side 2B for the First Order Stormtrooper. He has 2 nodes. And when the last one is done, we're going to finish that Hyena Bomber to 7 stars. We're going to come back full circle to that. For the shops, while you're building into the Darth Revan and Malak side of things, you should be using the shops to build all the First Order characters that come out of there to 7 stars. You'll need the First Order Special Forces TIE Fighter out of the guild, TIE Pilot out of the guild store. Out of the Cantina store, you'll get the First Order Officer. Out of the Galactic War store, you'll pick up Captain Phasma. And then the Fleet store for the First Order TIE Pilot himself. For event prep for Revan and Malak, to get Malak, you need 5 light side and 5 dark side characters at 17,500 galactic power. We're going to choose T3M4 on the light side and Juhani for the dark side. We're going to leave them behind. For the rest of the characters, we're going to work on their skills. We're going to work on good mods, and we're going to get them potentially all the way to Gear 12. Most of the characters have to be Gear 11 plus great stuff, or just Gear 12 to be able to get that level of galactic power. Be careful trying to shortcut the galactic power using Zetas. It's okay to put the Zeta on the Karth Onasi leadership if you want to, push him to 17.5 with less gear. But I would really recommend for these other characters, avoid placing Zetas. It may seem good to put the Zetas on to save yourself the need for some gear, but you can always get that gear again later, and you can't get those Zetas back once you put them on. It could potentially be 2 or 3 Zetas that will go on characters that don't make very good use of those Zetas. Their mechanic can't really be made functional even at relic levels for Grand Arena. It's not a good way to build these characters. So my recommendation is be patient, gear them into these galactic power requirements. Don't force fit the Zetas. Be patient. With our build path, Malak is going to take 8 to 9 months to unlock. So it's definitely possible to get him in about 7 months if you put the right focus in. Potentially even 6 months, if you're a very focused player. But we're not looking to get Malak as soon as possible. Remember, we're looking for a phase that's going to build us into SLKR. We took 8 to 10 weeks in the middle between the 2 Revans to stabilize our account and get good arena placement. And that's going to delay our Malak by a little bit, but that's fine. That's all part of the plan. By the time you get the Malak and the Darth Revan unlocked, you should be midway through 6 stars on the Malak with your guild event token currency, or potentially even getting him to 7 stars. So as soon as you get that Darth Revan team up and going, you'll have a new team for Squad Arena that's going to be even more powerful than your Jedi. After the Malak event, you're going to continue to farm the ships for Finalizer while you're gearing up your Darth Revan team. And in this phase, you're going to transition to the last of the characters in the First Order ships, as we talked about. What done looks like for Darth Revan, we're going to recommend taking him all the way to Relic 7 and put all the Zetas on him. And again, does Darth Revan need to be that high level? Potentially no, but at low levels, in order to make this a really dominant force in the Squad Arena and to make sure that it becomes a implacable defense in your Grand Arena, you put him at Relic 7, you put all the Zetas on him, and you will not regret it. Bastila Shan Fallen should be at least Relic 3 with a Zeta on Sith Apprentice. Malak, you're going to go all the way to R7 once you get him to 7 stars. I've seen people that stop off with Malak at 3 or 5. The character is one of the best characters in the game. Putting him at Relic 7 makes sense. Make that commitment. Get that Relic level onto him. And again, it'll be a benefit to you and you won't regret it. The Sith Empire Trooper tank needs to be at least Gear 11 or 12. And HK-47 is potentially Gear 12. HK-47 is kind of a placeholder. You may build him up someday, or you may instead build a Sith Marauder to take his place. HK doesn't do awesome damage below relic levels. So if you want HK to start hitting like a freight train, you will need to invest in relic levels for him as well. By this time, the galactic power of your account is probably around 1.6 million. Remember, we were about 1 million with Revan. We worked some relics into our account, And because of the continuation of fleet and the continued building of the Geos and the Geo ships, that's why I believe that the galactic power of this account should be over 1.5 million by the time you get Malik. It'll be about 10 months in total of gameplay if you started as a non-hyperdrive bundle player. Again, these are just estimates trying to give people a feel for what to expect. What's next? The relics that you're going to build: Kylo Ren Unmasked, Enfys Nest, and the Kylo Ren, the old school Kylo Ren. And think about it. So at this point, your Grand Arena is really in good shape. You've got Darth Revan, Jedi Knight Revan, Geos, Vader, several characters that can do solos, and plenty of teams to fill in. And then as you build your First Order relic characters in order to get your SLKR, your team will continue to become stronger. And then when you get very close to building SLKR, you will find that you actually start to drop off a little bit because you will have reliced a whole bunch of characters that aren't quite as effective as what might be in some other people's account who are doing, purely early game teams. So you may find a falling off point in just the last month or two before you get that SLKR finally unlocked and going. But then once you get the SLKR into your account, you're going to once again exert dominance in the Grand Arena as well as Squad Arena. For the Supreme Leader Kylo Ren Finalizer event, what I do with my main account, we do a relic Kylo Ren in the shuttle, and I had the other two, Phasma and the First Order Stormtrooper, at lower gear levels but decent, and that made the shuttle workable. You need at least gear 12 in the Hound's Tooth, potentially even relic level Bosk would be good, but gear 12 should be adequate for the event. A relic level TIE Silencer is really the heart of what's going to drive you in this event. You'll have Vader's TIE Advanced as a reinforcement, and if you've invested in Vader like we talked about to relic levels, his ship is going to be in good shape as a reinforcement to really put down a lot of damage. Slave 1, I do recommend building that ship as a reinforcement. It can come in and tank a few hits wherever you need it to. And for the rest of the ships, the Xanadu Blood and the First Order TIE, for example, those ships you don't necessarily need. You do have to have them at 7 stars, but you can potentially have them at 7 stars at level 1 and not invest a whole lot into those ships. When I do the event, it doesn't really go past those first 2 reinforcements. By then I usually have the battle under control, and you don't really need to bring in a 3rd and 4th reinforcement anyway. So with those 5 ships in decent working order, you should be able to do the event each time it comes up. When you have the ships to 7 stars and you do the event at roughly the same time that you're starting the last of your First Order characters. So the last phase, when you're farming the First Order Stormtrooper and those characters and finishing out their stars, that should be about the time that your fleet is fully qualified for the event, and you should be successful in that. If that's the case, then you should have still about 8 characters left to relic, and if you relic characters at a pace of about once every 3 weeks, then those 8 characters, 8 or 9 that you have left to do, will take roughly the same amount of time as 7 instances of the SLKR or the Finalizer event popping up for you to get those last 65 shards to get it to the 5th star. If not, it won't be far behind, and you can always stop off and relic things like your Enfys Nest or circle back around for your Grandmaster Yoda if you didn't relic him yet. So it won't be too much delay at that point. The paths work out quite nicely, at least according to statistical timing. With this path as a free-to-play player, we're estimating the total build time from the start of a first level account until SLKR is somewhere between 18 to 20 months. Good and efficient players can see this result as early as 15 or 16 months, but for the average player, first time through the game, not as a alt account or something like that, not knowing exactly how to get into a great guild and all of that stuff, we're looking at 18 to 20 months as a reasonable estimate. So this path take you about 1.5 years to complete. And you should end it at about 2.5 million to 3 million galactic power, depending on what else you built. And for sure, you'll be at 3 million galactic power with the hyperdrive bundle if you purchase that. Gives you a little bit of an idea. Final note, I've said it enough during this video, but I'll say it again. In addition to all of the characters that you need for this build, player versus player goes better when you have good mods. By the time you get to the Darth Revan team, you really need to have some good mods, good speed mods with speed substats to mod that team in the right way to make sure that you can dominate these game modes. So do not leave your mods behind. Thanks for watching. This is the Gladiator path for the 2021 Beginner's Guide. I hope you enjoyed it, and remember to have fun playing the game. Join us over on the Discord if you haven't already. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next Holocron.